What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Chris Gio here, coming to you from Beyond the Veil. I'm not sure if that went out, so I'm going to say it one more time. What's up, everyone? Chris Gio coming to you from Beyond the Veil. Wanted to do a quick little video, as I always start every 4-hour show off with, and just say hello to our Patreons out there. We've had a couple of issues with some of our recent shows over on Patreon getting pulled because we were kind of using like YouTube back channels. So we're going to be uploading them to alternate places here in the next couple days. It's going to take me a few minutes though, more than a few minutes. It's going to take me a little bit of time because I have them recorded in segments. As a matter of fact, I better hit record on this one right now. Okay. So it's going to take me a little bit of time because I have them recorded in segments and I've got to render them in Vegas and re-upload them. I've like created like a bunch of just throwaway YouTube channels that we've been using over at our Patreon. And the reason for that is because I like to personally watch VTV whenever I'm watching any podcast, as a matter of fact, on my TV. And I know that YouTube allows you to do that. But the AI has been picking up on some of our shows and some of our show content. And I'm freaking out a little bit about this channel. And so I pulled a couple videos from this channel that have that same sensitive content. And it's interesting because the one thing that they flagged us on two different videos was this song I did, Damn It Feels Good to Be a Truther. And we didn't talk about anything related to, what we're not supposed to be talking about. But I took a clip from Good Morning America that said, can people who have had that thing, they, poke, can they die after getting, that other thing? And the doctor comes back and says, yeah, absolutely. You got to remember, it's not a guaranteed method, et cetera, et cetera. So they took that one clip out of that one song, even though it was a 4-hour video, and that was an audio coming from YouTube itself. And they put a strike on the channel. Luckily, it's one of the secondary channels. But obviously, we need to preserve this channel here, youtube.com/beyondtheveil. Otherwise, we won't be able to connect with everybody. But we will be moving over to btvtribe.com here pretty soon to even get off of even Patreon. We're making plans to do that. Things have been pretty crazy, pretty stressful over here. And today was a big day of relief. And Sheree and I were talking today at the surgeon's office about mind over matter and the power of manifestation, because I feel like we've done some pretty hardcore manifestation work, and it's given me a really good baseline between raw consciousness and 3D consciousness, because trust me, throughout this whole process, I have been just operating on both levels. My 3D body has been freaking out. My 3D mind has been freaking out. My raw consciousness has been like, dude, chill. But obviously, when we're inside of these avatars, you have chemical reactions and things like that happen that you really have to really focus on overcoming. And it comes right back down to like the same practices going all the way back that we were doing in 2010, 2009 with DMT and ayahuasca, where you face down your fears and you stand firm in your gnosis and in your belief of who you are. And when you do that, then you can make the body actually start to calm down. You can stop those chemical changes. You can change blood pressures. You can do things like that. And all these things we've done over the last week. And today, something hit me really, really, really hard. So I wanted to talk about that. I also wanted to talk about the New Age a little bit later in the show, because Sheree and I were talking about how our last show, we pretty much purged all of our 3D stuff and put it out there. And we got nothing but love from the show. I was amazed. And it was a lot of inspiration, and a lot of people were like, man, I've never heard anybody speak so openly about themselves, about their experiences. I'm going to start applying some of the stuff that you recommended in our relationship. Hey, we've been having the same relationship problems, or we've been applying the same things in our relationships. We just haven't been wanting to talk about it with people. And I was like, Oh wow, this is much bigger than I thought. So I'm so glad that that last show was so inspiring, even though I think we might have gone a little bit too deep. But I realized what we're doing, we were purging the 3D to get it out of the way. Because there are two very different personalities at work here. There's the 3D personality, and then there's the raw consciousness. And these are two very different personalities. And as the matrix starts to shut down, the two of them become more and more distinct from one another, and I find myself either overwhelmed by my 3D or completely operating in the raw consciousness. It's no longer a case of where the two are kind of working together. Now it's almost like trying to tear that 3D part of myself off. And when I'm in raw consciousness mode, I'm in raw consciousness mode. And I want to share an ancient Egyptian ritual that I haven't done in lifetimes, that I did on Cherie the other day, that completely changed things. And it comes to the mind over matter thing. I don't feel like I should talk about the ritual itself because it's such an ancient thing, but I can tell you about it. And it was so weird the way it happened is we've been very, very, very worried that one of our time is coming. One of us has to go to the other side to drop off codes. And we haven't really been worried on a raw consciousness level. We've been worried on a 3D level. And the biggest worry is not what's going to happen when we go to the other side. The biggest worry is, are we going to leave any work undone? Is there going to be anything left undone that is going to pull us back into this matrix? And I think ultimately that's the point where we're getting to, is where we have to let go of a lot of things. And as I've said before, one of the things that we have to let go of, and this was when I was doing this ritual with Cherie, I was telling her, I was like, I'm not real, right? And she's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, Chris Geo is not real. You have to understand this, okay? You need to understand this. Chris Geo is not real. Cherie Geo is not real. Our higher selves, our raw consciousness are real. These are illusions that we're living right now. And while we're in the illusion feels very, very, very real. But once we start to leave the illusion, we have to be able to let go of even that. And that's going to be the most difficult thing to truly understand. But while we're in the illusion, yes, the illusion is very, very, very real while we are in here. So that kind of came up in conversation, and we came to this understanding, like, yeah, no, we do have to understand that every experience we've had in here, everything about ourselves, everything about the work that we need to do and everything like that, we have to make sure that we get done our soul's mission. I'm talking about like higher consciousness, raw consciousness stuff. And also we need to make sure that we understand the illusionary nature of this reality, and not only understand it, but know it and believe it in our hearts. Because once you get disconnected from this matrix, that the matrix is going to try to it's going to try to use everything to pull you back in. And I know what it's going to try to use for me. I know, there's no doubt about it. It's going to be Cherie, and it's going to be like, hey, what about her? What about her? What about her? She's left in there by herself. Or if she goes first, then what's going to happen is she's going to be greeting me. Hey, Chris, it's been a long time. Nice to see you. And I have to remember that's not really her. That's the matrix trying to pull me back in. So we've gone through a lot of things over the last 4 years, and I feel like a couple of the recent shows have been focused around what we've been going through. And I think it's just because I feel the need to share with our tribe our true selves, who we truly are. The number one thing I hate is illusions. And obviously, because I'm living in an illusion, this whole matrix is an illusion. But I'm watching the quote-unquote spiritual community, and everybody sends me a video every once in a while, and I'll click on it for about 10 seconds, and I want to throw up in my stomach. There was this blonde lady on, and she was talking about, well, we're empaths, and as empaths, we're here to make the world better. And so, that's why I started this course. It's not very much. It's only $50 a month. And, you'll get daily insights into this and daily insights into that and all this and blah, 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 blah. And I was like wanting to puke in my mouth. And Cherie was like puking in her mouth first because she's the one that showed me. But we got to talking about these things, and we got to talking about, what higher consciousness really is. And we put out every part of ourselves on our last show. And that's going to be over at patreon.com/BTVtribe. Just simply because I had to pull it because of the damn song. That song, I had to pull any video that song has and either cut it out and then put it back on, or put it exclusively on Patreon on an alternative video provider, because like I said, they're literally tagging stuff that's from like Good Morning America, CNN, Fox News, clips like that, and they're tagging that as medical misinformation. And I'm like, I got these audio clips from YouTube. Hello, but that's not what it's about. It's about them being able to say it, but us not being able to say it. Nobody's allowed to say it except for those who are sanctioned to be able to say it. And I don't want to go into what it is. But anyways, my point is that we got so much love, and we are very, very, very different in our sense of self and spirituality here at Beyond the Veil, that me personally, from a third person perspective, I've never seen anything like this before. I've never seen anything, and as people have commented, I've never seen anything raw and as real as Beyond the Veil. And the reason is because we are seriously here on a soul's mission. We're here to get some work done. And I think after the pyramid and the matrix reset, that kind of solidified it for me. Like, yeah, you are here to get some shit done. You got some shit done. You did something that was taking lifetimes to take, attempts over and over and over to take, and you did it. Not only did you do it, you did it with your tribe. You manifested a global shift. You manifested a global reset. Now, of course, they're trying to hijack it. I'm not saying that the reset is going the way that we had anticipated it's going, but it is going in our direction. I don't want to get too far off topic, because I don't want to go too far down that line. But let me just say that everything's happening exactly the way it should, and I'm so super hyped up and fired up about it. But I think that's the difference. And I think that when you put real up next to fake, it exposes the fake even more, which is why I think that a lot of people don't like us, because we are so real that you put them side by side and it exposes the fakery. But I really don't care what people think. I care what my tribe thinks, and my tribe is going to vibe with me. And that's one of the messages I wanted to put out there, is that your tribe is going to vibe with you. And whoever's not vibing, the way I see it, they'll either vibe later or they're not part of your tribe. So there's no reason to try to appeal to them. There's no reason to try to make them happy. There was a point around 2015, we were just, entertaining all different kinds of ideas, and we were hated by everybody, because we never took any positions, we never took any opinions, and we were open to everything. So one day we would have Zechariah Sitchin on, or not Zechariah Sitchin, it was another guy. I don't remember what his name was, but he was a friend and student of Zechariah Sitchin. The next day we'd have Michael Heiser on, who says Sitchin is wrong. And so we'd get, tomatoes thrown at us from every direction, the pro-Sitchin guys and the anti-Sitchin guys. We would have Mark Sargent on one day. And then the next day we would have somebody like Stephen Greer, who talks about aliens and planets and UFOs and all kinds of stuff like that. So we're getting tomatoes thrown at us from every direction. And then we were like, you know what? Why entertain everybody else's views? Why not just stick to our own views, put ourselves out there, and put it out there in the most realist and rawest manner that we possibly can? And that's when the tribe came together. So the way I see it, fuck them, man. I mean, that's the most powerful thing for me, is fuck them, fuck it all. It's a very, very, very powerful meditation. And I made a joke about this a few years ago, then actually saw a YouTube video along the same lines of that. And I was like, oh, that's freaking awesome. Another thing that I think would be awesome is JP, Awake with JP, that channel. He's a great channel. He's a comedian. He's hilarious. He's always poking fun at the New Age. He's poking fun at the vegetarians. He's poking fun at even ayahuasca. And I can laugh at everything, even when he's poking fun at ayahuasca and everything like that. It's hilarious what he's doing. I respect what he's doing. He's going to be here in Las Vegas June 7th through 10th, I think it is. And we got VIP tickets. And of course, we've got our iHeartRadio backstage passes, press passes. So I think I'm going to get a chance to talk with JP. And if I do, number one, I'll try to get him on the show because he's hilarious. But number two, there's been a skit that I've been wanting him to do, and I'm gonna suggest this skit to him. And I sent him an email, but he never wrote me back. So when I meet him in person, it might be a little different dynamic. But it's a skit where somebody's sitting in a cow pasture, right? And it's a New Age guy because he's always doing these skits, like that are like New Age and things like that. And he's like, okay, I want you to open up the chakras. And take a deep breath and just take it all in and breathe it out. We're going to send it into 5D. Take it all in and send it all out. And, a couple different things like that. And then either the camera is fixed on him with a pile of bullshit in front, like literal bullshit, because he's in a cow pasture field, literal bullshit in front of him, or the camera pans down to go, can't you just smell all the bullshit? And the camera pans down to the bullshit or cow patty that is sitting right in front of him. And I was like, oh my God, that would be such a great video. I don't want to do anything like that though, because I don't want to bite his style. But I'm so super hyped about getting to meet him, because with the VIP tickets, there's a Q&A, and then with our press passes, we'll probably get a meet and greet. We usually get meet and greets with people. We went to EDC, we're backstage, we get backstage all the time. So that will be really, really, really fun. But one of the reasons is, what we started to notice through this journey that Sheree and I were talking about today is that the frequency of ridicule and mockery. We often like to use the word judgmental. And I have caught myself using that word judgmental many times before. Oh, those people are judgmental. But I've also caught myself using it in the proper context. The proper context is to judge something, to form an opinion about something. And I think we should form opinions about things. And we should be flexible in our opinions, obviously, but we should form opinions. So there's two ways to use the term judgmental. Judgmental in the positive sense is forming an opinion on something and passing judgment upon it. And keeping your own opinion to your own self and, all that. Or, if you want to scream your opinion out there, that's fine too. But when it turns to ridicule and mockery, then what kind of frequency is that? So we started talking about a couple different things that the New Age is pushing. So number one, they were pushing the vacations. And that was like the big red flag right there. When they started pushing the vacations and pushing the lockdowns and everything else like that, we were like, okay, this is an up. No doubt about it. I've seen this before. And then the whole Q thing, and then, first it was Ben Fulford with David Wilcock, and then it was the Blue Avians, and then it was Q, all pushing the exact same Bolshevik revolution propaganda, and this is spanning over 15 years. And it's all coming from the same outlets. And of course, as I said before, Gaia TV was bought up, Coast to Coast was bought up, several other places were bought up and conglomerated, and a lot more people have been bought out by this one Ukrainian guy. I remember this from 2015 when we were up there over at the Coast Studios. It was a Ukrainian guy that was trying to buy everything. And then all of a sudden we have all this situation with Ukraine and everything like that. Like, it's all starting to come together in my mind. But it's for the flow of information, and it's for the control of consciousness. And even if they're just controlling consciousness on a 3D level, what you think, what you say, so on and so forth, in my opinion, I said this at the very, very, very beginning of doing Beyond the Veil, but it was aimed more towards religion. And that is that anybody who fucks with somebody's spirituality, anybody who fucks with somebody's soul for profit and is purposefully misleading them for profit, if there is a hell, there is a special place in hell that is for those people. You do not mislead people on a spiritual level. You do not fuck with people on a spiritual level. You do not take advantage of people on a spiritual level. Like, that's where the fucking line is crossed. Like, the line is like way, way, way back there. But this is like way, way, way overstepping the line. And so I was amazed at all the positive comments that we got from our last show, because there was no judgment. There was nothing but love. There were like 2 or 3 negative comments, snarky comments, things like that, and people who come from a lack of understanding. I'll give you an example today. Well, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, so I won't go there. But we realized we found our true tribe, and we're vibing with our tribe. I know some of you guys and gals are vegans out there. I know you're vegetarians, and more power to you. I've got nothing against vegetarians, and I've got nothing against vegans. What I have a problem with is the energy behind veganism and vegetarianism when they become militant. When anybody's militant about pushing their opinions and their belief systems upon me, that's when I have a problem. And vegetarianism, veganism, and the vacation are 3 things that the New Age has kind of been pushing, with this whole kind of like guilt tripping and shaming kind of thing of, oh, well, you can't be spiritual if you do that. You can't be spiritual if you do this, and all that. So I started to think to myself, why am I recoiled by this so much? Obviously it's not the vegans and vegetarians that are sitting here in the Beyond the Veil chat, thinking to themselves, hey, it's cool if Chris has a different opinion. It's not that. What it is, it's the ones that are running around and being militant about their belief systems and point of views and pointing the finger, very much in the same way that I've seen preachers run around and point the finger, and those Bible thumpers, they get under my skin, because it's like, whoa, hey, your path is your path, my path is my path. You're not leaving any room for my path at all, period. And as a matter of fact, you're trying to shame me for my path. And I know what I know deep in my heart. You're not going to be able to change my heart. The only thing that's going to be able to change my heart is myself coming to my own revelations, my own gnosis, and all of that. You could try to plant a seed. You can try to shine a light, but that's about the extent of your capabilities in influencing me in any way. And then I'm going to have to meditate upon that idea. I'm going to have to consider it. Sometimes I'll even try it, like the vegetarian and vegan thing. I tried for about 3 or 4 months, completely screwed up my metabolism, and Cherie went from 120 to 80 pounds. And at that point, and I lost a ton of weight too. I lost a good 40 pounds. I lost 40 pounds. The problem is that I gained 60 afterwards when I started eating normal again. And then now I had another extra 20 to contend with. And I've been contending with that extra 20, taking it off and on and off and on and off and on and off and on for the last 4 years. So it did do something to my metabolism, and I'm getting my metabolism back up. Obviously, that was not a path for me. But when you talk about like frequency wise here, okay, if I was to sit here and shame you for what you're doing, I remember we did a show the other day, and we were talking about anxiety, and I had mentioned something about Xanax, and how I think it was a caller that mentioned it, that they were on Xanax. They've been on Xanax for some time. And I was like, hey, you know what? That's cool. If you want to get off of it, I actually just spoke to somebody who's writing a book about getting off of benzos. But if that's what you need for your journey at this point in time, more power to you. And then the chat room just blew up. Hey, I'm on this, I'm on that. I've been struggling with this. I've been struggling with that. I've been using this successfully. I've been using this for 25 years, and it's worked for me successfully. And I never saw such a non-judgmental, loving dynamic coming together as when that caller called in and opened that up. And you wouldn't see that on any other quote-unquote spiritual podcast. Instead, you would see judgmental, you'd see ridicule, you'd see all kind of stuff like that. And I like to screw with the militant vegans a little bit sometimes. I'll post pictures like at a steakhouse or, something like that, just to kind of like throw it in their face a little bit. But realistically, think about the energies and the frequencies that we're vibrating here. Okay, if you want to win me over with something, then you want to show me that your ideas have improved your life or freed you in some way. Not that you've become militant about something, and not that you've become, forgive the terminology, but not that you become an asshole about your ideas. And now you've got to go around and ridicule, mock, and dehumanize people who don't believe the same thing that you do. That's not going to win me over. That's actually going to make me recoil. So when you think about frequency and energy, what is the raw consciousness, frequency and energy? Is it to judge others for their personal choices, or is it to accept others for their personal choices? You know, if I can reference the Bible here for a second and just, you know, look at the path of Jesus. Just recently we watched The Last Temptation of Christ again. And we just did so for fun. And it's actually a really, really, really good movie. Very reminiscent of Donnie Darko. You know, same thing, tangent universe, you know, all that kind of stuff. Time traveling back to a certain day that needs to be done. You know, I was like, oh wow, there's a lot of parallels here, and it was actually pretty interesting to watch. So as we were watching that movie, I you know, going back, who was Jesus in the Bible? Jesus was anti-establishment. He was anti-religion. He was a spiritual teacher. He was non-judgmental. You know, one of the big things is he was washing the quote-unquote whore's feet, who in that movie they portrayed as Mary Magdalene, which they actually figured out that wasn't the same Mary. Mary was more of a title. Mary was a free woman in the state of Rome, and she was pretty much like an Essene, and she was considered a free woman, where others were considered slaves by Rome, which is why you have all the titles of Mary back then. But again, that's a whole nother topic. But he accepted everybody as they are. He didn't sit there and judge this and that, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It wasn't until he went up to the mountain, or not to the mountain, to the desert, I should say. In the movie, they portrayed it as the desert. In the Bible, they said he went up to the mountain. Or he went to the desert, and the Satan took him up to the mountain and said, all of these kingdoms can be yours, all of them, et cetera, et cetera. And I think what happened is he made a deal with Set. He made a deal with the AI to come back and judge the living and the dead. And it was really interesting because in that movie, there's a scene with a flame. We played it on a previous show. And he says, you know, join me, and together we'll judge the living and the dead. You'll sit by my side, et cetera, et cetera. And then in Revelations, Jesus says, I come back to judge the living and the dead, et cetera. And I'm like, isn't that the same thing that Satan was tempting you with earlier in the Bible? Like, have people not made this connection in their minds yet? Like, the whole judgmental part of it is a very, very low frequency when you're talking about ridicule and mocking. And that's what I find from the New Age community. It's like, you know, you're ridiculed, you're mocked, unless you follow along with their, you know, preconceived agenda. And if you're outside of their agenda, you're ridiculed and mocked until you fall in line, or until you pretend you fall in line. Like, I can get up here all day long and can tell you I'm vegan. I can go to a freaking steakhouse and nobody will know any different, unless I happen to see somebody there and they see me eating a steak. But I'm really open about myself. So if I'm going to go have a steak, I'm not going to sit here and talk about being vegan. You know, that's I'm just not going to do that, even though a lot of those people do. So what's the difference in frequency there? The difference in frequency is acceptance versus ridicule and mockery. I like acceptance. I want to accept people for how they are. And one of the things that we say here on Beyond the Veil that I don't hear anybody saying is that you are beautiful, you are perfect, you are exactly the way you're supposed to be. You may be a little bit further down the path, or maybe a little less down the path, but any way it goes, you are still a wonderful, beautiful being. And you're either tapping into your raw consciousness, or you have tapped into your raw consciousness, or you're struggling a bit with your avatar. But any way it goes, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're on psychopharmaceuticals. It doesn't matter if you drink alcohol. It doesn't matter what you do. What matters is how it is affecting you. Is it something that's controlling you? then it's a problem. If it's something that you're controlling, then I don't see a problem with it at all, period. I mean, I think to myself, you have these teachings with like religion and the New Age that talk a lot about holding your orgasm and not having sex. While at the same time, a lot of these New Age bullshit artists, I got into it with this ayahuasca guy up in Peru who was on the ayahuasca board on Facebook, who was inviting people out. He was inviting a female-only group to go do ayahuasca ceremonies. And I was like, are there any other women there? And he's like, no, I'm the shaman. And I'm like, dude, no. You're a bullshit artist. I'm calling you out right here and right now. And a lot of people agreed with me. There were a couple people who argued with me, but I think a lot of people could understand. And see, it was that fact that he couldn't even understand. If he would have come back and said, I completely understand where you're coming from, and I can see how giving ayahuasca, especially to a group of women, will place them into a very vulnerable state where they can be taken advantage of. This is why I tend to the ceremony and my wife tends to the ladies themselves, or my girlfriend tends to the ladies themselves, or these ladies tend to the ladies. I don't get into the lady space. They have their experiences. I'm merely the facilitator of the ayahuasca. Okay, I respect that, and now I get it. Instead, his answer was, why would you say something like that, Chris? That disingenuous bullshit? Why would you say something like that, Chris? Why would you say something horrible like that? Because it's a very real thing. It's a very real thing, and it's something that happens all the time. Now, does it mean that you're doing it? No, it doesn't mean that you're doing it. Does it mean that the situation that you're setting up is has the potential to lead to that? Absolutely. Does your reply to that tell me your true intentions? Absolutely, it does. So I think I saved a lot of women from going down there. And I actually started talking about cults on one show before, and we actually got a caller who had called in who said they were going down to that same cult in South America. And they said, I listened to your show and I actually had plane tickets, and I got to the airport and I turned around. I don't know if you guys and gals remember this caller. I turned around and I said, I'm not going down there. And then, we find out all this stuff about this cult that's down there, posing as these new age bullshit artists. And then they'll get people down there and basically use them as sex slaves and free labor. And they'll make them work 12 to 18 hours a day on their ranch, and then they sleep in really shitty quarters, and then they're supposed to have sex with the leaders of the group. And it's like 1,000% new age cult bullshit. And I'm like, whoa, man, it's pretty heavy. So the frequency of acceptance versus ridicule, I think, is the frequency that we want to aim for. And I hope that we aim for that here at Beyond the Veil. And I am so amazed. I mean, I'm almost in tears because we talked about the deepest parts of ourselves, the most personal parts of ourselves, and we got nothing but love from everybody out there, nothing but acceptance. And it also gave us an opportunity to purge out the 3D, which helped to create a further separation between the 3D and the raw consciousness. So we've been battling with quite a bit of 3D stuff that's been thrown our direction. And Cherie's very, very, very strong. She's very intuitive. She is the most wonderful person in the world to me. She's my twin flame. She's my other half. I couldn't do this without her. But as I said in a Facebook post, I can't do it when it's me against her and her pain. The only way that I can do it is when it's me and her against her pain. And there's a very delicate balance on how to balance that out. And I started talking about how I need to be able to rebalance myself, just like she needs to go to the doctor and she needs solitude, as she's having right now, because she just had a big pre-op appointment this morning, which is why she's not joining us. Likewise, I need to be able to go out and have fun. And I have gone out and have fun with a few different people. And I don't want this to sound egotistical or anything, but I've had a couple situations where the girls will fall in love. And one girl in particular that I was hanging out with, she had an ulterior motive to hang out for a bit and then try to get me to leave Cherie. she didn't understand the bond that Cherie and I had, and there's no way that I'm going to leave Cherie. I seriously was looking for somebody to go out and have fun with. So, for example, this weekend, Snoop Dogg and Ice Cube are playing here in Las Vegas, and I'd really love to go. And I can go with some homeboys and go do all that. I'd rather go with a date. Cherie might go with me. She might not. I don't know how she's feeling about it. But that's the kind of stuff that I'm talking about, like somebody that I can go out on a casual date without the expectation of anything afterwards, without any attachments and respect for my marriage. And Cherie is completely and totally fine by this. And I've only met one person that had the respect like that. And then all of a sudden, after we did that show, I met 3 different people. And all 3 different people of different age groups were like, dude, I would totally love to hang out with you. Your energy is just freaking awesome. I don't care if you're married. I'm not really looking for anything. I just broke up with my boyfriend. So I'm not really looking to get into any kind of serious relationship or anything like that. I'd love to hang out. And I was like, this just came out of nowhere. Like, I walked into a restaurant and this girl was just like complimenting me left and right and left and right and left and right. And I'm like, okay. Do you want to get together sometime? And she's like, yeah, no, I would love to get together. She said, I got to tell you though, I'm only 18 and I'm not 21, so we can't go anywhere over 21. And I was like, oh, whoa, you're only 18. I was like, okay, number 1, you don't look 18. But number 2, I can't hang out with you. You're too young. But I was flattered. I was like, wow, this beautiful 18-year-old girl is like totally like vibing with me. So it gave me like this huge ego boost. So then I was even in a better ego boost. And then I wound up talking to a couple of other people closer to my age, and met this chick, and she's super cool. And she's like, dude, I would love to go out with you and just have some fun and just decompress. I just broke up with my boyfriend and I am not trying to get into any kind of relationship whatsoever. I definitely want to meet your wife, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and all of that. So it's just like, I understand she needs solitude. She understands I need to get out of the house and have some fun. So we put all that out there, and there was no judgment whatsoever. And as a matter of fact, it manifested something positive, like literally like almost the next day. It's been one positive thing after another that's been happening. And I think it's because of input and output of energy. And this is going to lead me here into the manifestation part of things here pretty soon, because you put energy out, you get energy in. So one of the things that I hate about Las Vegas is the homeless people here. And it's not that I hate the homeless people. It's that a lot of them are scam artists, and I've tried to help some of them. So I was at a gas station one time, and this guy was like, hey man, I'm stuck here. I'm trying to get some gas to get home, etc. And I was like, dude, just leave me alone. His energy wasn't right. But my brain, this was my brain, not my raw consciousness kicking in, going, man, I really should help that guy. I said, fine. I turned around and I go and I said, all right. And I put my debit card in the gas pump, and I stick the thing in his car, and he goes, and I start filling it up, and it's filled. And I'm like, dude, you got a full tank of gas. He's like, dude, I know I got a full tank of gas. Okay. I'm trying to get some money. I'm like, well, why didn't you ask me for money to begin with? Why'd you tell me this bullshit story that you were out of gas? Another one, I saw a guy on the side of the road. I asked him, hey man, are you hungry? And he's like, yeah, man. And come through, I happen to be at a chicken place. Cane's Chicken is one of like the big chicken places here. And I drive by and I hand him some Cane's Chicken, and he goes, oh man, I'm sorry, I'm a vegetarian. I don't eat meat. And I'm like, I don't think you're really in that position to be a vegetarian, dude. If you're sitting on the street begging for money and you're hungry, you are probably, it's kind of hard to maintain your vegetarian lifestyle if you're homeless on the street. Beggars can't be choosers. But I wound up wasting my money on that, and it was just like, he wanted money. That's what it was. He wanted money. So I get a lot of this, but I was at 7-Eleven it was yesterday, I think. And I went out late night, and I walk in, and there's this guy just sitting there, and he's just like listening to music, and he's like really dirty. And I look at him and I say, "Hey, brother, are you hungry?" And he's like, "Yeah, I am actually." And I was like, "When's the last time you ate?" He goes, "I haven't ate since yesterday morning." I said, "Oh my God, dude." I said, "Come on in." I said, "Get whatever you want." And he goes in and he gets a sandwich. And I said, "Bro, get a couple sandwiches, man. Here, get this. You want some cookies? You want some this? You want some soda? Do you want some beer? You know, it's totally cool, dude. You know, I totally get it. You know, you're homeless and all this. You know, sometimes you just want to get drunk sometimes. I totally get it." And he's like, "No, man, I'm okay with just one sandwich." He's like, I really feel bad about taking from people without being able to give." And I hand him the sandwich, and I'm checking out. And I wanted to go talk to him afterwards and told him, "Dude, you know, you're not taking. You're actually giving by giving me the feelings of being able to help somebody." By the time I got out, the guy disappeared. I don't know what happened to him. I don't know if he was an interdimensional being that was there to test me. I don't know if he just happened to walk away really, really, really quick. I don't know what the story was with that guy. But I can tell you how it came back around full circle. This morning, I was taking Cherie to a pre-op appointment, and something has overwhelmed me. And the reason that it's overwhelmed me is because I performed this ancient Egyptian ritual that I haven't done since 3268 BC. And I don't want to go too much into the ritual because I just can't. It's this ancient ritual that is very, very, very sacred, and it's a healing ritual that I don't know if it can be performed on everybody or if it can just be performed on twins, but I'll tell you this, it takes a lot of energy out of you. It's basically an energy transference ritual that you take your life energy and you give it to somebody else. You divide it up with somebody else. You basically switch roles with that person. And I performed this ritual, and Cherie started feeling better immediately, and there were some physical manifestations as to what happened. So I'm going to get into that ritual here in a little bit and talk a little more about the manifestation, and then try to wrap it up quickly. I want to try to keep it about an hour and a half here. But I do want to say that I was driving today, and all of a sudden I got stricken before we left with this panic attack. And it wasn't a panic attack in the traditional sense. It was like temporal distortion, it was vertigo, it was nausea, it was this ritual that I performed coming into me and coming out, and it felt like there was energies that were fighting inside of my heart space. And when you understand this ritual a little bit better, and I'll describe it as vaguely as I can, but to try to make sense, you'll understand why there was so much going on in my heart space. And it was almost like I was dying 1,000 times, and the timelines were shifting. And this started happening as soon as I sat down and we were about to walk out the door to go to Cherie's pre-op surgery. And I couldn't help it. I was bawling. I was growling. I was growling this growl. And Cherie was in the shower, and I was trying to keep her from hearing all of this, and I don't think that she did. She just came out and she saw that my eyes were really red, but I was struggling really, really, really bad with a raw consciousness and the 3D consciousness, because our ritual was very, very, very taxing. But anyways, so I was in this state of vertigo, and almost as if like timelines were folding and unfolding on themselves, revelations were coming to pass. It was a lot like the pyramid, except not nearly as intense. During the pyramid, I also felt the same temporal distortion before we walked in there. The Great Pyramid. I felt the nausea. I felt the panic. I felt all of that because I know that we had done this many times before, and we always made a wrong step somewhere. And so I think this was another one of those legs in the journey that we needed to make sure to take all the right steps. And then I think what I was feeling was the multiple timelines that we've attempted this before, and the fact that we haven't made it this far in the Matrix reset process with all different attempts, and we were kind of walking into new territory here. So I was fighting this thing that was inside of me that was stiffening my arms as I was driving and causing heart palpitations. And I mean, it's a panic attack for all intents and purposes, but I was struggling a lot, and I was really trying to pull from my raw consciousness to bring myself back to a point of balance, and I managed to do it. But in that time, I noticed that I was driving 87 miles an hour. I switched lanes multiple times, getting her there. I'm focused on the road because I always drive, I drive very far apart from other cars. So even if a car came to a sudden stop and I'm doing 87 or 90 miles an hour, I have plenty of time to stop. I don't ever tailgate people, and I don't ever get into places to where I don't have time to stop. So I am consciously doing that anytime I'm driving like this. And I'm not recommending that people drive like this. I'm just saying that in the times that I do and the times that I don't, I'm always keeping a good, healthy distance between me and any other cars in doing so. But I wasn't paying attention to what I was doing, and I wasn't paying attention to how fast I was going. And I saw this black car way behind me, and it was following me for a good 5 to 6 miles. And I was thinking to myself, is that a police? No, they don't have all blacks here. I've never seen an all black here in Vegas. And he pulls me over, and my heart's jumping out of my chest, and I'm panicking, and I'm still in, sovereign mode. He comes up to the car, and he says, do you have your license? And I said, man, I lost my license a couple weeks ago, but I got a picture of it. And he goes, well, the reason I stopped you is I've been following you for about 5 or 6 miles. You were doing 87. You switched lanes multiple times. You didn't use your turn signal, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I said, look, I'm driving my wife to a pre-appointment right now, and I am just in a really bad state. I'm having heart palpitations. I'm having these weird panic attack type symptoms and all that. And he says, do you need an ambulance? And I said, no, I don't need an ambulance. I just need to just calm down. And he says, well, take a deep breath and just relax for a second. And I said, okay. And he goes, I just need to find out who you are first. And I pulled up a picture of my driver's license on my phone, and I gave it to him. And he says, do you have a registration? And I said, I don't have my registration. I don't have my insurance. I mean, I'm sure you ran my plates. My registration's fine. I have insurance on the car. I said, I'm not really focused on anything but what's going on with my wife right now. And she has some major surgeries that we're going to the pre-op for. And I'm feeling the load of stress that has been weighing upon us for the last 2 years. And he goes, well, I got a job to do. And, we can't have you driving 87 miles an hour. This could lead to a fatality in a car crash. And we get those every single day. And I said, look, if you can just give me a break. And I would never talk like this. I would deny everything. There's a quote by John Gotti, and he said, if they accused me of stealing a church and I got the fucking steeple sticking out of my ass, I'd still deny it all the way to the very end. But I was just like, look, this is what's going on, and I'm really worried about her, and I'm struggling right now with a lot of emotions. I said, I'll be more than happy to have her drive. And I told her earlier, I don't think I'm in the state to drive right now because I'm having these panic attacks. And he says, well, take a deep breath, breathe a few times with me, and just calm down, okay? He runs back to his car. He talks to his partner for a second, and he comes back, and he's like, I don't even know if I believe your story. And Cherie pulls up her appointment and says, this is the appointment. And when I said that she can drive, she said, do you have a license? And she says, yeah, I do right here. And she pulled out her license. And she said, this is what I'm supposed to look like. And this is what I look like now. And he looked at both and he's like, oh. And he's like, all right, look. He's like, I'm going to let you off with a warning. But just because you have to take your wife to a pre-op, I understand what you're going through right now. But you have to be cautious and careful and aware of everybody else outside. And I was like, thank you very much. Thank you for that level of understanding. And I think it was because of the energy that I put out yesterday that this happened today. And I think also what it was a preventative measure too, because I was not in a good state this morning. And there was a very good possibility that I would have been so stuck in this shifting timeline with memories coming back of pre-Matrix times, flooding in on me all of a sudden, flooding in on me how we've done this before, how we've made mistakes before, how we're at a very important leg, just as important as we were at the pyramid, and how we need to make every step right. And I was even telling that to Cherie. I'm like, I'm just thinking about every step that we're taking right now, making sure that we take every step right and do it differently than we did last time when we failed. And, all of this. So I think that he might have been one of hers that stepped in to say, okay, hold on, rebalance yourself, remember your raw consciousness, get a hold of your body computer, and go. Don't fuck it up again. Because we could have died in a car crash last time. That might be what happened last time. Some people were pointing out of the pyramids, we died in the pyramid before. And some people remember us doing the pyramid before and dying in there. And we've never made it this far along in the reset process. So I just feel like so blessed that there was somebody there who was compassionate about the situation. And the level of love and understanding and compassion that I have been feeling from everybody has been so overwhelming. It's put the New Age in its proper context, in its proper dynamic. It's really created a stark contrast between the judgmental, you must do this, you must do that, you must feel this, you must feel that, you must be strong all the time, don't show any weakness, all that, etc., 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 to this is what's real, this is what's going on. I'm struggling, I need help. Sure, I'm the pillar of strength, but sometimes the pillar of strength needs reinforcement. And then the reinforcement coming in, picking everything back up and keeping everything at balance. And this is why I think that we stand while the rest fall. It's because of each and every one of you out there. It's because of the good energy that we're putting out on a day-to-day basis. But it's been a struggle over the last 2 years. And we finally got to a point today to where we are starting the process of fixing everything. Now, I want to talk for a minute real quick. We're at 52 minutes. I want to talk about the manifestation aspect of all of this, because I have 3 manifestation stories that I can tell you that we've practiced over the last 2 years that have worked. Now, you can chalk them up as coincidences you want, or you can chalk them up as mind over matter, or you can chalk them up as coincidence or mind over matter. However you want to take it. Again, there's no judgment. There's nothing like that. It's totally up to you how you want to take it. The first one I've talked about before. After the car accident, they did an MRI on my back. They found metastatic disease, which is stage 4 cancer. And I looked at Cherie and she started crying, and I looked at her and I'm like, this is stupid. I don't have stage 4 cancer. That's fucking stupid. And I literally, that's the first thing out of my mouth was, that's fucking stupid. Those exact words. I'm not cussing just for the sake of cussing. That's my first words. And I went to the doctor and they tested everything. They had tested the adrenals. They had tested the heart. They tested literally everything. And then they decided to test the brain, and they found a tumor in the brain, and they thought that was cancerous. And I was like, well, of course, I expect that from the pyramids. Terence McKenna, when he found the transcendental object at the end of time, which is not the same thing that we did at the pyramid, but it's the same intensity on the body computer and on the mind. I mean, think about overclocking your computer. When you do massive amounts of psychedelics and get into these deeper states, you're basically overclocking your computer to make your computer work in a way that it's not supposed to. So the brain takes on a lot of energy as you're moving into these higher states, which I find very comical when New Age people who are very judgmental about ayahuasca will sit there and say, oh yeah, I can get to those states. Yeah, no problem. I can get to those states. It's like, okay, we'll do it. Show me. Show me you in an ayahuasca experience completely out of control of your body and completely gone out of your body. Show it to me. Do it. Oh, well, this and that, blah, 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 blah. I always get that kind of stuff. I'm not saying that people aren't intuitive. I'm not people that are saying aren't psychic. I'm not saying that people aren't able to peer into other dimensions. I'm talking about actually going to other dimensions, actually leaving this dimension and traveling into other dimensions. That takes overclocking your body and overclocking your brain. So I expected something to happen in my brain when I came back from the pyramid. So I went to several different doctors, and they finally determined that it was a pituitary tumor. It can be corrected with hormones. And once they rebalanced my hormones, I started feeling like I was 20 years old again. They said that the tumor has actually shrunk as opposed to grown over time. They've been keeping an eye on it, and that it's non-cancerous. And they said that the MRI reading must have been an MRI. Must have been a misreading of the MRI. But they were glad. I'm glad that it happened because they were able to find something that was there that was causing me problems that could be rebalanced through hormone therapy and things like that. So that was fantastic. Second instance is with Cherie's current surgeries. She's having some internal issues, and I don't want to talk too much about her internal issues. But they found a tumor in the stomach area. And it was a pretty large tumor. And they suspected that it was cancerous as well. And this was back in, I want to say, January, I think. I don't remember. So she was worried because we've been both getting the messages. One of you is going to have to go home soon. One of you. You're going to have to decide which one it's going to be, but one of you is going to have to go home. Because somebody needs to be here, the other person needs to be on the other side to input codes, and somebody needs to be here to leave final instructions. It's just, unfortunately, just part of our path, and I'd rather be the one that goes, and the reason for that is because the toughest job is to be here afterwards. The easiest job is to go home and put in the codes. But Cherie can write so much better. She can write my words down so much better than I ever could. And she knows my heart. She knows everything that needs to be written. All she asked me for is just for a draft of the book. The book is the most important. The documentary and all that, that's sideways ego stuff. Hey, look, we want to drink ayahuasca at the pyramid. The book is the real deal instructions that needs to be done. And I've been kind of like purposely putting it off because I feel like I can buy a little bit more time with my tribe. And I think there's one more site that I need to go to. I'm not sure about that 100%. But I think that there's another site that I need to go to. And the way things are working is that she should be okay by the end of 2023. And then March of 2023, we should be able to go to that other site, which seems to line up perfectly with the Matrix reset timeline that we had before. But anyways, so we sat down and focused, and she was very, very, very worried. And I was like, okay, well, we both know. And when we speak to each other, we speak to each other very raw consciousness. I mean, when twins speak, they're either speaking from the complete 3D and tearing each other up, or speaking from a very, very, very higher consciousness of, okay, well, one of us has to go. How are we going to transfer these codes? What are we going to do? If you're really ready to go home, and I understand that because I understand the amount of pain that you've been in, and you've suffered a lot, and I would not blame you whatsoever for wanting to go, because it's not only leaving here, but it's also escaping the horrible prison, which is a body with chronic pain. I understand if you want to go. However, I think that it's best for you to stay and for me to go, because you can get the job done much better than I could here, and I can get the job done there much better. And I don't know if this will happen tomorrow, and I don't know if this will happen 4 years from now. I don't know if this will happen 10 years from now. But eventually we're all going to wind up going, especially in this matrix reset process, and especially if this matrix gets as bad as I believe it to be, which we're looking at this timeline of ending, in my opinion, a nuclear war. And if it gets down to that, I definitely am not here to live a post-apocalyptic lifestyle. I moved to Las Vegas so I can live a party lifestyle. I moved to Las Vegas so I can go to shows, so I can go out and have drinks, so I can have fun, so I can do all that. I'm not trying to survive in the woods. Even though there's nothing wrong with it, I just don't see that as a quality of life that is something that I aspire to do, or even as a last resort. I understand life and death so much that I don't feel that I need to worry about that kind of stuff, because I'd rather just go than stick around here for post-nuclear apocalypse type stuff, even though it would be kind of cool just to be here to see it. But on a day-to-day basis, I mean, imagine not having running water. You know, that's the situation that we're facing here in Nevada, and I have a feeling like there's going to be a mass exodus from Nevada right now, because Lake Mead is the lowest that it's been since 1933, and this is our main water source, and actually the sump pumps for Lake Mead are 6 feet exposed. And so their solution was to create sump pumps that are lower. Well, the Hoover Dam is supposed to be filled up all the way to the top. It's got almost no water left in it. So pretty soon Nevada's not going to have any water. And when that happens, there's going to be a mass exodus out of Nevada. There's going to be no more Las Vegas anymore. So we might have to get out of here. But if we didn't get out of here, I wouldn't want to live without running water. I wouldn't want to live without all of that. And then on top of it all, they're finding bodies in the water now too that are surfacing. So I know that the mafia always dug people in the desert. I never thought about them throwing themselves in Lake Mead. But when you really think about it, the Hoover Dam itself, it's got bodies all in it. Like, you know, workers would die and they would just build concrete over their bodies. And that's a story that people have heard for a long time, that the Hoover Dam actually has bodies in there. How many actually fell in the river? In the reservoir. And it was built in such a stupid way. It was built backwards. It was built at the beginning of the flow, not the end of the flow. So it's not like they can let more water in through Hoover Dam. You know, I don't understand what they were thinking when they built this thing. They built it backwards. But anyways, they're finding bodies, and Sheree and I have always felt really apprehensive about the water here. And we have quote-unquote hard water. And I don't know what the result of hard water is, but I know when you've got dead bodies floating around in your water supply, that's not a good thing to have. So anyways, so that's something that's transpiring right now, and we're really considering this. So this is just one small facet of a post-apocalyptic world without a nuclear disaster, without any kind of major disaster like that, where we might have an entire region of the United States having to flee because of a lack of water. And there's a lack of water in several other places too. So we're already seeing the matrix not only breaking itself down, but getting to that post-apocalyptic state. And what are we going to do? You know, get gallons and gallons and gallons of water and just, you know, put them up somewhere and then make a little makeshift shower and shower like that. You know, I was watching a little documentary about the way that people live in the tunnels under Las Vegas. And they literally have like little apartments in the sewer systems of Las Vegas. And they were touring them around. They're like, yeah, this is my living room. This is my bedroom. Made a little makeshift shower here so I can put a bucket of water here and, you know, get a quick shower here, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We got a portable toilet and all this. I'm like, man, I'm not trying to live that lifestyle. You know, I'm trying to live a little more, you know, classy, comfortable lifestyle. That's the lifestyle worth living to me, because I don't want to have to focus on survival. I want to focus on raw consciousness. I want to focus on the mission. I want to focus on getting people out of the matrix. And you can't do that when you're in a state of survival mode. All you're thinking about is where you're going to get your next meal. Which is why, again, sometimes when people say, I want to move out to the middle of nowhere and live off the land, more power to you. But how are you contributing to yourself and to society if you're just living off the land? How are you interacting with people out there? How are you changing people's lives? How are you changing your own consciousness if your days are spent plowing a field or going out fishing and hunting and doing all stuff like that? While that's fun to do, don't get me wrong, it just seems to me like a very static kind of life, and it's not dynamic, and it doesn't leave any room for growth. Although retreating, like Sheree and I did for a while, was really, really good for our souls. But this is what it's all about. It's all about the soul. And so going back to like the New Age kind of stuff, the ridicule and the shaming of everything for everything that you're doing with your 3D avatar and everything that you have to do for your 3D avatar, whether it's eat meat or you have to take a certain pharmaceutical. Some people need to take psychopharmaceuticals. Like, I did not believe this at the very beginning. And then I met some really crazy fucking people out there. And I'm like, no, you need to take some fucking psychopharmaceuticals, okay? You're the type of person that needs psychopharmaceuticals. You're the ones that they were made for. They're pushing them on a lot of other people they're not supposed to be for, but no, trust me, I got a message from some guy the other day. It was the craziest message in the world. And he said, you're part of the Illuminati. And I was like, oh, really? And he's like, yeah, you just don't know it. And I was like, okay. And he's like, you've done the Masons proud. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, I'm so-and-so Grandmaster of so-and-so and so lodge. And, we read the Masonic rituals the other day on air, word for word. So I asked him, how do you know yourself to be a Mason? And he says, because I wear all black and do this and that, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm like, that's not the way a Mason would answer a question like that. Then he started going off about how he's Horus and all kinds of stuff like this. And I was like, and he's like, we need to do a podcast and bring your wife because she's awesome. And I was like, I appreciate the good vibes and everything, bro. But feel free to call into the show sometime. But I was just like, yeah, there's some crazy people out there. There are, no doubt about it. And that's not even the worst of it. But my point is that there's no judgment about your path. So what's the higher frequency? Judging, people for the choices that they make for their avatars, because our avatars are all breaking down right now, or acceptance of one another. I think acceptance of one another. So we had that second manifestation situation happen, and we decided that we're not going to accept cancer into our lives. So they did the biopsies on these tumors. So all the biopsies came back negative. Now we have 2 instances where we were diagnosed with cancer, where we did not have cancer. Now, it could be mind over matter. It could be due to AyaLife. AYALife.com is our CBD oil. I'll put it on the screen real quick. I'm not saying that it can cure cancer or anything like that. All I'm saying is that we've been using it religiously and we've been pretty healthy. The only problems Cherie's having are physical problems that need surgery. She's not sick. She's not ill. She's just suffering from having her insides pretty much upside down and having a broken SI joint. And that SI joint is supposed to be fused. That's not something that can be fixed. It's not a disease. It's a physical injury to the body. It's just like saying to somebody who has one arm, oh, well, you just have a disease and you can fix it by, meditation and all this. And it's like, no, you're not going to grow your arm back. Okay, either they're going to have to put a robotic arm on there, or if you have a broken arm, you're going to have to put a cast on there and you're going to have to let it heal, or they're going to have to go in, they're going to have to actually change something. But there might be something to the energetic changing that I want to talk about here in just a second. But let me plug AyaLife real quick. AyaLife is our CBD oil. It's 99% pure CBD, and it's got the ayahuasca vine in it. And we've been using this religiously. Cherie cannot take NSAIDs. Oh, you can see on the bottom of the screen right here how I'm downloading all my YouTube videos and backup videos so I can repost them to Patreon. But AyaLife is something that rebalances the body, and the reviews that we've gotten have just been amazing. As I've said before, Cherie's pain doctor up in Idaho was giving it out to her patients because it has no THC in it and it works so well. My dentist assistant takes it for COPD. She thought there was no cure for it. She started taking it and it worked fantastic for her. And she said, I've never slept like this. I thought there was no treatment for this, but once I started taking her product, and she's actually lost weight as a result too. I walked in and I was like, wow, have you been working out? And she's like, no, I've been using your product. I was like, wow, that's incredible. The reviews that we get on AyaLife have been phenomenal, that people just feel better, they feel more balanced, and some people have been saying that they've also been able to connect even better. There was one person who said that they had a 17-year-old cat, and the cat was starting to die, and then he started taking Eye of Life, and he started running around like a kitten again. We've received so many emails from people who were saying, like, one grandma was in hospice. These are the ones that stick out to me the most. Grandma was in hospice, and she was basically getting ready to die. She wouldn't eat, she wouldn't do anything. So he started sticking Eye of Life in her mouth. And then after a couple of days, he comes into the hospice, and she's playing cards with the nurse. And he got a chance to talk to her. She was in her full capacity and mind state, and she wound up dying shortly after from her disease. It didn't cure her disease, but it brought her mental state back up to that point of being able to interact with them. And he was like, dude, you gave me back time with my grandmother. You know, that's something that is amazing. So this has worked so well on so many different levels, and it also prevents cytokine storms. And so that's for autoimmune disorders. And I think that's one of the reasons why Cherie doesn't have actual medical problems. Like, she doesn't have kidney disease, she doesn't have heart problems, she doesn't have blood pressure problems, she doesn't have any of that. She has internal injuries, and she has bone injuries that need to be fixed with surgery. But everybody's amazed at how well she's doing, even though she's suffering a lot from her internal injuries. I mean, just imagine running around with a broken leg, and your leg requires surgery, and it just will not heal. You know, the only way to heal it is through surgery. But she's been using this to reduce inflammation because she can't use NSAIDs, and it's been working phenomenal. So if you go to our shopping cart and you put in the single bottles 246810, we still have our coupon code BTV Tribe. So you put 2 in the checkout, and or you can put 4, you can put 6, you can put 10, you can put however many you want. I've got 4 in there right now. I go to the shopping cart and I type in the coupon code BTV Tribe, just like our Patreon, patreon.com/BTV Tribe, and hit apply, and you get 50% off. And I got to say that we dropped the ball a little bit recently because on Patreon, because we've been slammed by Eye of Life orders. I don't know where these came from, but we are just getting slammed with Eye of Life orders. It's been so many that we woke up one day and we looked and we were like, oh my God, how are we going to fulfill all of these orders? And we just had to rush and rush and rush and rush to get these orders fulfilled. So Eye of Life went viral from somewhere, and we don't know from where. I don't know if it was somebody that used it and had a big reach and sent it out to all of his people, but we just got bombarded by sales. So at the same time, while we're dealing with all this and we're stressed out, we have the opposite where we're bombarded by sales by Eye of Life, and we're like, oh wow, this is incredible. So we've had to like rush to be able to fill supply and, you know, do all that kind of stuff. At the same time, we have this YouTube issue of YouTube taking down our stuff, even though it's unlisted on Patreon, and we've got to figure out how to balance all of that. I just wanted to say thank you real quick for the super chat to Rebecca. Thank you. Have a drink on me. It's not much, but I appreciate the both of you for bringing truth to light. Rebecca, thank you so much. And you know what? It is a lot, because you said, have a drink on me. It's not much, but I appreciate the both of you. Thank you, because that shows me a couple different things. Number one, it shows me the understanding and the love and all of that is have a drink on me, and the non-judgmental. You're in Las Vegas. Go have a drink. Go have a drink and decompress sometime. I'm definitely going to have a drink on you, and I'm also going to buy the person next to me a drink from you and pay it forward and see if we can get some energy going like that. I was actually thinking about doing that with a cop. I don't know if it's going to work, but I'm going to walk up to a cop next time I see him at a restaurant, and I'm going to tell him I'd like to pay for your dinner. And I'm going to explain to him why. And I'm going to say I was driving 87 miles an hour and I was in a really, really, really emotional state at the time. I got pulled over by one of your officers on the way to take my wife to surgery. He was very sympathetic and he let me off with a warning. I didn't get a chance to thank him, but I'd like to buy your dinner tonight to say thank you to him for being sympathetic and understanding, and for understanding the difference between somebody who's speeding recklessly and somebody who's speeding because they're in distress, and for stepping in and doing the role of a police officer, which is ensuring safety, not money revenue, not money generating revenue. And I hope by paying it forward to you that when you see a person in my position, you might give them the same leeway and same sympathy and same understanding that officer showed me. And then if I can do that, and I can reach one officer like that, and he goes out and he does that to somebody, and then that somebody gets off on a ticket, and then goes up and does that for another officer, and starts spreading the love like that, the dynamic might actually change. Now, I don't know. I've done this before, and the loops have been broken. I bought the people at Jack in the Box their meal behind me. And then I went back to that same Jack in the Box a few days later, and the dude was like, "Oh my God, this went on for like 2 hours." And then some asshole decided to break the chain. And he's like, "Oh, thanks." And he took off. And he's like, "But dude, it just brought so much good energy, man. It was just so freaking awesome. And it all started with you." And I was like, cool. So yeah, I'm going to try to get the energy flow going like that. So the manifestation, just to wrap it up, it's about an hour and 15 minutes now. The manifestation aspect of things is that we manifested that Cherie was not going to get cancer. There was just no way. We're not going to accept that in our reality. There's some things that are outside of our control. Her EDS is a connective tissue disorder that she was born with. It's a DNA level type thing. There's nothing that we can do about it. Broken bones, there's nothing we can do about it. Insides upside down, there's nothing we can do about it. Tumors that form, there's nothing we can do about it. We can treat them. We can try to minimize them. But sometimes a surgeon has to get in there and actually fix them. But blood pressure, her blood pressure was down really, really, really low. And I went over there and I put my hands on her and I did some energy healing. And I said, check her blood pressure. And she goes back and check it. And it was like 90/60, which is really low. And she checks it again and it's 114/80. And 120/80 is almost perfect blood pressure. And I was like, oh my God. And she's looking and she's like, oh my God, I can't believe what you just did. And I was like, well, here's the thing. It's all about controlling the energy and the energy flow of the body. And as we were talking to the surgeon today, obviously we walked in with a bunch of Egyptian symbolism on us. But he said, the surgery that I'm going to do is basically going into your soul. And I was like, when he said that word, I was like, whoa, that's pretty deep. Like, that's a deep level of understanding of how much you're tapping into this person. And I read this guy's energy and I gave him a hug and, real quick, tried to place an order, couldn't pay due to technical errors on the site, tried one day later and my brother also used it. Both were unsuccessful. Neela, yes, we were getting bombarded with orders so much that our credit card processor stopped it for a second to ensure that these were legitimate orders and started blocking our transactions. And we had to send them a form showing these are legitimate orders and it's not just somebody just hacking into our gateway trying to use stolen credit cards. Like, this is the fluctuation of the orders that came in. So that should be resolved now. And that was the resolve. That was the thing about going from a certain number of sales into going 10 times more sales and just having this huge flood of sales. The credit card processor wanted to make sure that we weren't hacked, and they went through all of our PCI compliance and everything like that. And we use a professional shopping cart. It's not like a self-built website, so we're all obviously PCI compliant and everything like that. We don't handle any credit card information or anything like that. But yeah, we did notice that, and we got that cleared up. So please try again. Thank you so much for trying again. And I'm so sorry about that. It happened to a couple of people, but it was because of that influx of orders that we got, that they were like, whoa, let's make sure all this is legitimate for your safety out there. And even though it was an inconvenience for you, I think you would agree that if your credit card got stolen and then it started getting used somewhere, then you would also want them to do something about it. Unfortunately, it did affect our business for a brief period of time. I think it was like a duration of like 12 hours or 18 hours or something like that. But yeah, we've got that all straightened out now. So we had the energy thing. So I was able to raise her blood pressure through energy work, and nothing changed in her. Like, it's hard to talk about this without going into too much detail about what she's going through. But let me just say that it's internal female things that are going through. And the surgeon said that this is the worst thing that a female can go through. But she's going to feel the best after she goes through it. And as I was talking to him, I gave him a big hug, and his energy was great the first time I met him. I met him again today, gave him another hug as soon as I came in. As soon as he came in, and I said, "Hey man, thank you, brother. Thank you for being here." And he started talking to her. He addressed every one of her concerns without us asking anything. I mean, every single concern that she has was addressed without us even having to ask. And then he said, you know, you got to understand what surgery is. It's traumatizing the body. We are creating trauma upon the body in order to fix something, but we're actually creating more trauma and injury to the body as we're doing surgery. So it's going to be up to you two to do your energy field work to heal the process. The surgery can only go so far, but it's up to you to use your energy fields to do the work. And he goes, I don't know if you believe in that kind of stuff, whatever energy you want to call it. And I go, no, you're definitely speaking our language. And he goes, okay, good. He goes, you understand the energy flow. He says, you have to use your energy to heal yourself after the fact. And I was like, oh my God, I have never heard a surgeon or a doctor speak about energy healing, period. Not a mainstream doctor. I mean, you might, maybe one of these holistic doctors, maybe something like that, but never a surgeon, never anything like that. Everything is always medical books, medical industrial complex, all of that. Energy healing is kooky, all of that. He said, you're going to have to use your energy fields to really heal the body after this. I can only fix it, but it's up to you to use your energy fields to heal it. And I was like, oh my God. My hair had, if I didn't just wax it all off, it'd be standing up. And then he said, we're going to keep her for about 2 days, maybe 3, however long you want, because there's no way you're going to be able to control your pain at home. So we're going to keep you here, and we're going to make sure that you are completely pain-free and you're uncomfortable, and you're very comfortable for the next couple days after the process. And tears came to her eyes, and she just gave him a hug. One of the other doctors wanted to take her off all of her pain meds before the surgery, literally for 2 weeks, and then put her on a low dose of pain medication afterwards, thinking that that's going to work. And that's torture. That's actually, like, I talked to an attorney about malpractice, because when somebody's on a certain amount of medication and you cut their medication so quickly, that it's actually against FDA regulations. You can't do that. And I talked to somebody about filing a potential medical malpractice suit, and they said, yeah, this is medical malpractice and patient abandonment as well. But I don't want to get too much into that because I haven't started the process on that yet. And I don't even know if I will start on the process on that. I'm worried mostly about her healing herself and using our energy fields to heal each other. But I don't know if he just said that because we walked in with a bunch of Egyptian tattoos, and so he can, he recognizes, you see pentagrams all over me. Obviously, I'm not a Satanist, and there's a lot of Wiccans here in Las Vegas, and so he probably runs into a lot of those. Or he's actually more of an esoteric healer than he leads on to be, understands the esoteric element of all this, and felt comfortable enough to talk to us about that. But all of a sudden, I just felt Relief. We both felt relief. Now here's the kicker. About 4 days ago, she thought she was dying. She was losing so much blood that she's like, I'm dying. She started hearing static, and she started hearing music. And she's like, I've been hearing static all day, and I'm starting to hear this music that it's like this sped up music. And I was like, is it like this 1920s, 1930s sounding recording music? And she's like, yeah, that's exactly what it is. I said, when I started to cross over, I started to hear the same thing. I started to hear static and frequencies. I started to hear this music, and then I started to hear these voices. And I'm not talking about voices in your head type stuff. I'm talking about like voices. Like imagine you're sleeping in a pod, you start to wake up and you can hear the voices in the pod, or you wake up, okay, here's a better example. You're having a dream and you're in the hospital and you're waking up and you hear doctors and nurses talking. It's like while you're still in the process of waking up, you're hearing the doctors and nurses talking. It's interfering into your dream, but you're hearing the outside world coming in. So the static and everything else that she was feeling, what I took from it is that it was the other side people. The static is the disconnection of the pod, the disconnection of some of the tubes and things like that, and the readjustment of that, the cutting of the frequencies. And she was like, baby, I'm going to die tonight. Today's my last day. I love you very much, etc., etc., etc. So I looked at her and I said, you have to stay here. You can't go. I need to be the one to go. You have work to do here. So I walked over and I grabbed these 2 crystals that somebody has sent. You know which ones you're talking. You know which ones they are. I don't remember who sent them, but you know who sent us the crystals, the pink one and the black one. And you said, I got them from the DMT realm. You're going to know what to do with them later. And we kept them actually in a, I don't remember what it's called, Faraday cage, something like that. Something that it contains energy. We kept it in one of those because the energy was so strong coming from these crystals that were sent to us that we didn't know what they were. They were unlocking codes, no doubt about it, but they were also healing codes as well. There was a lot of codes encoded into that. And one of our BTV tribe was able to get those codes, put them in these crystals, and send them to us. And they said, you're going to know what you do with them when it's time. And I saw her, and she's laying there, and I'm watching her fade away. And she's crying, and she's like, it's okay, I gotta go, etc. And I said, are you willing to stay here? And she says, yeah, I'm willing to stay here. I'm in the same place you were at the Luxor pyramid. And then she started using the same words, baby, keep me here, keep me here, keep me here. I said, okay, I'm going to keep you here. We still have more work to do here. So all of a sudden, I get into this frequency. I am no longer Christio. I'm not on ayahuasca. I'm not on mushrooms. I'm not on anything like that. I pulled raw consciousness 1000%, and there was no Christio. I went into my ancient soul, and I performed a ritual upon her, which can only be described as, please don't take this the wrong way, but it's a resurrection ritual that is an ancient Egyptian resurrection ritual to bring life back to a body. And I haven't done this since 3268 BC. I remembered doing it in 3268 BC. And I don't know why I know that exact date, 3268 BC. I was totally a different person. I didn't remember this ritual throughout my other past lives, or if I did, I never used it. I didn't remember this ritual up until that point, but all of a sudden, when I got into that raw consciousness state where it was like, okay, it is go time. This is something very serious. This is my twin, and she doesn't have all the right codes. I have some codes. I can either transfer the codes to her and let her go, or I can bring her back here. And so essentially what this ritual was, and I'm hesitant to talk too much about the process of it, but let me just say those crystals came in very, very, very handy. Because they weren't necessarily, they contained codes, but they also created conduits. But I was able to take some of my energy body, which is full of energy. I mean, I'm full of life. I was full of life. And I was able to transfer it to her. And I saw this process, and all of a sudden, ancient Egyptian symbolism started making complete and total sense to me, like in a deeper way than I can even understand. And I'm sitting there, and I'm working on her, and I'm pulling the energy out, all of her death energy and stuff that's going on inside of her. I'm pulling it out, and I have nowhere to take it. The only place that I could put it is put it in here. So it goes all the way back to the beginning of the broadcast where I was talking about this morning, how I was having heart palpitations and this thing inside me that was making me growl. Like, you know, I've taken that energy and I'm processing it, and I'm just looking at myself as I'm either strong enough to process it, or it's going to help me achieve going back home when it's time to go back home, one or the other. But I pulled this energy out of her, and she has this hiatal hernia, and the hiatal hernia was sticking up, and it was pulsating really bad. A hiatal hernia next to the aorta, once it gets tangled up, that's it, you're dead, because blood can't flow anymore. You might have a few minutes to get to the hospital and have them rip you open real quick, but it's either you do or you die. And I saw how this hernia was sticking out next to the aorta, and I'm like, this is about to pop. This is about to be a life-threatening situation. If we don't act now, we need to do one of two things. Either we need to do this ancient ritual, or we need to call 911, or we need to do both, one or the other. And this was later in the day after she had the blood pressure issues, and I was able to raise her blood pressure by doing energy work on her. I mean, we've got the receipts. You know, it's not like, you know, we just believe that we did. Her blood pressure was like 90/60. I think even worse than that. I think it was like 86/40 or something like that. I don't remember what it was. And then we brought it back up to 120/70, I think it was. Or no, I'm sorry, 118/70, which is close enough to 120/80. And we were able to bring it up by just manifesting, by just connecting our energies. You know, I mean, I can tell you this part of the ritual. The part of the ritual has to do with breathing together, which I think a lot of rituals do. Follow my breath. Breathe with me in, breathe with me out. Breathe with me in, breathe with me out. And as the breaths are synchronizing, the energies are synchronizing together. And I was able to put my hands on her and regulate the blood pressure. And I told her, okay. After that was done, I said, how do you feel? She goes, I actually feel 1,000,000 times better. I said, okay, check your blood pressure. And she goes and she checks her blood pressure, and it came out like 140 over something. And I was like, no, that's not right. That's something wrong with the cuff. There's no way it's going to race from 90 to 140 like that. That's not, you know, your heart's not palpitating. Your heart's not beating. This is wrong. I need you to sit up straight. I need you to sit up backwards like this and put the heart monitor up to here. And she put the heart monitor up to here like this thing I'm wearing right here. And she did the heart monitor in the proper seating position with the other arm. And it came out 140/70. And she's like, oh my God, you actually did it. And I was like, yeah, you should have just come to your twin immediately instead of looking to Reiki healers and all kinds of stuff that you've been talking to. You know, that's the thing. When you're twin flames, your twin has to invite you into the space. I can't impose my will upon her. I can't say, sit down, I'm going to heal you right now. I have to be invited to do it. It's just one of those things. I feel like it's okay, maybe it's part of me too. I feel like if I interfere too much against somebody's will or against somebody's request, then I'm going against the universe. And so she's never asked me, can you sit down and do energy healing on me? She did a long time ago, but she hasn't asked me in a long time, can you sit down and do energy healing with me? Except for the times when we were manifesting the cancer to be gone. We did this time. It was a different ritual. It was sitting down cross-legged with foreheads together and passing energy through and manifesting reality. But I think what we're doing is we're creating a Merkaba again. And this time creating a Merkaba to where an outcome was going to happen, and we changed the outcome of that. This was something completely different. So the final one at night, Brittany, Chris, you and Cherie and this tribe are rejuvenating, like coming home to family, full of comfort, energy that can't be explained. Oh, Brittany, thank you so much for that, because I feel the same way, and I get rejuvenated by you guys and gals as much as I hope we're rejuvenating you. And I've been feeling lately like we've been talking so much about our own experiences that it hasn't been rejuvenating, but I'm glad to hear that it is, because I'm hoping that other people are inspired. This is the best way I know how to teach, is to speak on personal experiences. So thank you for the confirmation, Brittany. Thank you, and much love to you. Thank you. That means a lot, especially in this time of struggle that we find ourselves in. So she's sitting there, and this was later, and she had been bleeding a lot. She had lost a lot of blood that day. And, I had to run her to the ER a couple times because she's like, I'm bleeding. And I'm like, okay, so what? Go put a Band-Aid on it. When a woman says she's bleeding, it's not like a man saying I'm bleeding. I'll walk in after working in the garage. I've got a big cut on my leg, and I've got blood dripping down my leg. And she's like, oh my God, baby, you're bleeding. And I'm like, oh, I didn't even notice. Like, I didn't feel it. When a woman says she's bleeding, that means something different. And she wasn't communicating to me how she was bleeding. She just says, baby, I'm bleeding. I'm like, well, fucking put a Band-Aid on it. What do you want me to do? And then we wound up taking her to the ER a couple times over the last couple of weeks, because this is all related to the surgery that's coming up. So the closer we get to the surgery, the longer we postpone the surgery, the more potential there is for permanent damage or for things to not heal right. So this was another one of those days. She had bled out pretty bad, and her blood pressure lowered. I brought her blood pressure up. Then by the end of the night, she was laying on the couch, and she's like, I'm dying. I'm legitimately dying. I'm hearing music. I'm hearing static. I'm hearing interference. I'm hearing voices from the other side. And I'm getting cross-dimensional frequency interference. And I know what that's like, because I experienced that at the Luxor too when I was going. So I was like, okay, this is serious. I automatically went into raw consciousness mode, got the crystals out, and did what I did. Basically, I don't know how much of this ritual I can reveal, because it's a very sacred ritual. It's a resurrection ritual. But it's basically taking the death energy out of the subject, and you have no other energy to harness from except for your own energy. So you're taking your life energy and you're injecting it into the subject that is dead or dying in this case. I think back then we were actually able to raise somebody that needed to be raised, but it took taking energy from somewhere and putting it into a vessel. So the light body energy is what was being depleted, and I have an enormous amount of light body energy, and I never once thought, I don't know why I didn't think up to this point, I can share my light body energy with her. But she never asked me to, and that's the thing. I can't impede. And I've never even thought about it, but it's just like, as soon as I saw her at that point to where she's like, that's it, today's my last day, I was like, okay. I switched and I started doing this. First, it was pulling the energy out, bringing it into my heart space. Then it was taking my life energy and transferring it into her. I was feeling this hiatal hernia, and it was bulging, and it was throbbing. Doo-doom, 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 doo-doom. Neela, thank you very much. Love and care for Cherie. Yes, feels like home with you guys. Thank you. Much love to you too. And thank you for making us feel at home with you. Thank you. So, doo-doom, doo-doom, doo-doom on this hiatal hernia, and I'm focusing on this. And I'm visualizing the hiatal hernia, and I'm visualizing how it's all wrapped up around each other, and I could see, almost as if like it's a third eye x-ray, I can see inside, and I can see how it's twisted and twisting on itself, and there's no blood flow, and I can see part of it starting to get blue from it twisting. So I'm injecting my energy into it, and I'm unwrapping it, and I'm allowing that energy to start to flow through that hiatal hernia. And I'm feeling it work, because I'm feeling the heartbeat in the hiatal hernia get less and less. Like, not the heartbeat getting less and less, but I can feel the heartbeat of the hiatal hernia, because the hiatal hernia will beat with a heart. I can feel the heart beating the hiatal hernia less and less and less, meaning that the constriction is starting to come apart, and it's being deconstricted. And so I'm feeling it, and I'm doing this all the way until the hiatal hernia doesn't disappear, but goes from being that far, sticking that far out, to actually being inside of her now. So now I'm watching this physical thing actually change within her. I'm watching her, the heartbeat stopping in the hiatal hernia, but still continuing in the heart. I'm asking her how she's feeling, and at the same time, her stomach starts making all these noises. And so I start focusing on this tumor, and I start focusing on breaking up this tumor that she has inside of herself. And this was about 4 or 5 days ago. So I start focusing on that, and I'm pulling it out, and I'm putting it in here into my chest, because I can't put it anywhere else. I can't send it out to the universe. I can't send it anywhere else. I have to put it in me and give her my light energy. This is just unfortunately the way the ritual works. I wish there was a way for me to release it, and that's now what I'm currently looking for, is a way for me to take it, transmute it, release it, maybe ground it back to the earth. That's what Cherie was mentioning, maybe take it from me and put it back into the earth. But I had so much light energy to share with her that I was able to give her a good amount of light energy. So over the next 4 days, she felt these large chunks coming out of her, large chunks of what looked like blood and tissue. And I felt her stomach moving. And she ate for the first time, and she said, "Oh my God, I am eating and I'm not hurting at all." And I'm like, "Is the food going through your system well?" And she's like, "Yeah, it actually is." And she ate half a chicken. She ate soup. You know, there's a Mexican chicken place where they make these rotisserie chickens. Oh my God, they're so good. I don't know where the Mexicans get their chickens from, but they are super fresh. I have a feeling that the chickens that we're getting were probably killed on that same day. Because I got some chickens from Sprouts and they tasted horrible. But those little Mexican chicken stands, oh my God. So she ate a half a chicken. She ate tortillas. She didn't eat any spices, but she ate beans, she ate rice. I've never seen her eat more in the last 2 months than I have the day after I did this ritual on her. And I actually heard the stomach starting to, make the gurring sounds and make all the sounds of it moving, the moving sounds. And there were some other bodily functions that she was having a problem with that were hurting her. Like, it was hurting her to urinate. But it's not hurting her to urinate because of some kind of STD or anything like that. It's just because the uterus is pushing down on the urethra so much that when you have pressure on the urethra and you try to pass liquid through it, that it's going to naturally hurt. And I think some ladies out there might be able to understand what I'm talking about. Us men, we have no idea. The only thing that I can think of is, let's say you've got somebody stepping on your balls while you're trying to urinate, or somebody stepping on your phallus. You're not going to be able to urinate if somebody's stepping on your phallus, or if your phallus is pinched in your blue jeans or whatever. But this is internally, so you got the uterus pressing down on the urethra, and I was able to make that urethra to remove that tumor, or break up that tumor, and that tumor started to come out in actual chunks, and she saved some of the chunks and took them to the surgeon. The surgeon did a brand new CT today, and he looks and he goes, "You don't have any tumors. That's good." And she goes, "Well, you diagnosed me with tumors last time." And he goes, "Oh yeah, that's odd. So they must have cleared themselves up." And she goes, "Well, I have some pieces here. Would you like to examine them?" And he examined them, and he was like, "Oh yeah, this is definitely your tumor. How did this happen?" And she's like, "I don't know. It just came out by itself. We didn't want to talk about this kind of stuff." She's like, "I don't know. It just came out by itself." It's like, well, good. We don't have to worry about a tumor. We don't have to worry about tumor surgery. Okay, so this is going to be a much simpler process than we anticipated. And he said this is going to be extremely simple, very, very, very common. When you first came in here, we thought it was going to be a lot more complicated, but we figured out you don't have cancer. Now you don't have a tumor for me to have to worry about. I can, do this with the uterus. I can do this with the bladder. I can make sure that everything is running fine. And, I guess forgive me for, I hope she doesn't mind me saying this, but her sexual functions haven't been 100%. And it's not that her sexual functions aren't there. It's just when you have your uterus pressing down on your urethra, you're going to be able to get aroused, but that arousal is going to hurt. You're still going to be able to have sex if you want, but that sex is going to hurt. And even just getting aroused and having an orgasm is going to cause pain. And we have found ways like, we'll take some life and put it on her area, and that will numb it, and then she'll be able to have an orgasm. But it will still hurt on the inside. And so I'm thinking to myself, and I haven't really vocalized this to anybody out there, but I think you women can imagine, and men too, when you haven't had a good orgasm in about 8 months, that's hell. That's really hell. I mean, I couldn't imagine if I couldn't have an orgasm, and every time I had an orgasm, I was having pain. This is the kind of shit she's been going through for the last 8 months. And I just feel blessed that I could take care of myself. Or as I said yesterday, I can go out and get the occasional happy ending massage or whatever, and even though I've only done it like in the last 8 months, like I think I've done it once. I did it once, and the girl she had just gotten the thing, the thing that goes in your arm, and I could feel shedding from her. And as soon as she started going into my light body, because when I go to massage, I'm not going to just some, sleazy massage parlor for massage. I'm going to get energy work rebalanced. I'm going to get chakras rebalanced. I'm going to get energy flowing. I'm going to get all of that. And there's also a release for males that is also a sexual release that releases the fluid from there too. So you're talking about moving the fluid all the way around the body. 10 minutes into the massage, I'll end up walking out. And I told her, I just ate and I'm having some stomach issues, but it was really her energy was that bad because they had required that everybody at that massage place get vaccinated. And I was like, I could feel it. I came back, I looked like death. I posted a Facebook video and I looked like death. And Cherie did a clearing and, all kinds of stuff like that for me. And then I felt better after that. But I was like, man, I got to be really careful on who I let touch me in that sacred space like that. If I'm going to open up my light body to somebody to work on, I got to make sure that they're not infected with anything and they're not going to be shedding anything onto me. So I haven't really been able to go out and even do that just because I don't trust the environment anymore. It was a great relief from like 2018 to 2020. to go get that occasionally done. But and I had one lady that did it, and she was a Reiki practitioner, and she was super sweet. But that was up in Spokane. But ever since we moved down here, I haven't really been able to go and decompress like that. But at least I can take care of myself, and she'll sometimes join me and all that. But could you imagine not being able to have an orgasm without having pain for 8 months, if not longer than that? So that was one of the things the doctor said. We're going to make sure that you are sexually functional. We're going to make sure that you are feeling great. We're going to check your hormones, because I suspect that your hormones are off. We're going to put you on hormone therapy, and we're going to get you feeling brand new again. And I said, they put me on hormone therapy a couple of years ago, and I feel like I'm 20. And he says, you know exactly what I'm talking about then. Your wife, after I'm done with her, is going to be feeling like she's 20 years old again. The only thing she's going to need to do is get that SI joint fixed. Then she's going to be feeling and looking like she's 20 years old again. She's going to be on fire for everything. She's not going to have pain, at least not down there. And hopefully we can wean her off all the medication that she's on too. And he said, have you ever heard about ketamine therapy? And I was like, ketamine therapy? Interesting. I said, we actually just spoke to a ketamine therapist just a little while ago. He goes, well, it's an experimental treatment and the insurance doesn't like to pay for it. But when she's ready to get off of all those medications that she's been on because of this, you get her set up with about 6 different ketamine sessions, and that will knock it out completely. So we're going to work to get her off of all the medications and everything that she's had to take for all of her chronic pain issues. This is what our goals are here. This is what my goal is with you. And, if she needs back surgery for that SI joint, you are very lucky, because it's a very invasive surgery, and every SI joint has to be solid. So they're going to go in there and they're going to fuse that. But once these 2 are done, we're going to make sure her hormones are balanced. We're going to make sure everything is working right. We're going to make sure that she's feeling great. And I'm like, was this what all the temporal distortion was all about? Was this what all the worry and everything that I've been experiencing all morning long? Because I still can't figure it out. Was it because I took on all that energy? Or was it that we needed to get to that doctor at a particular moment? If we would have gotten there 10 minutes earlier, could he have had his mind on another patient? If we would have gotten there 10 minutes later, could he gotten a phone call from his wife that then made him want to rush through the appointment and not give us the attention that she deserves? If we would have been there right on time, would the previous patient have pissed him off or something like that, and then put him in a bad mood, and then he's coming in still thinking about something else? Everything that happened, it happened in the exact perfect time. And to wrap it up, since we're getting to that 2-hour mark, I think it has to go into mind over matter. Mind over matter. The only time I haven't seen mind over matter work is when it comes to IA Life. And I don't mean to go back to plug IA Life again, but I got to share this story with you. We had a client that wrote, and we got overwhelmed, and we didn't get back to clients for a few days. And she wrote, and she said, it's not really working for me. I'd like a refund on the rest of my bottles. And we missed her email, and 5 days later she wrote, and she said, I still kept taking it because I wanted to finish the bottle. Once I got about halfway through the bottle, after about 3 days into it, I started feeling complete relief from everything that I was experiencing. This is the greatest product that I've ever tried. I just needed to give it a little bit of time. I do not want to cancel my return. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to be a return customer to you guys. And I was thinking to myself, mind over matter, you have placebo effects, obviously. I wonder to myself, do I have a placebo effect from IA Life because I believe that IA Life is going to work for me? But this proved to me that this isn't a placebo effect. she believed that it wasn't going to work. She had it in her mind, this stuff is not going to work for me. And then it wound up working anyways, which I thought was brilliant. And I was like, even though it was a customer interaction in which we dropped the ball on, and to make up for not mailing her back, we sent her a free bottle with her next order, because we always do that kind of stuff. If we drop the ball for any reason, we want to make it up, because our customers are our tribe. They're not just customers. They are our tribe, and we want to go above and beyond. And if we drop the ball in any way, we want people walking away using iLife feeling great, not only about the product itself, but about the buying experience that they had as well. And so far, 100% positive reviews. Haven't received a single negative review about it, except for one person that said it was too strong for them. And I was like, well, take a little less, But I thought that was a compliment. It's too strong for me. But yeah, it was amazing to see that it's iLife over mind, over matter, over body. And I think with combined experiences, I think there's something to this. I really think there's something to this. And I hope that you can implement some of this in your day-to-day life out there. And remember, it's all about the way you think at the very beginning. If you think, oh my God, this is going to happen, that's going to happen, that's going to happen, that's going to happen, it might happen. You might manifest that. We talked about jealousy in the previous show, and we talked about how jealousy is a relationship killer, and how at the beginning of a relationship, just naturally a 26-year-old girl, which is what Cherie was at the time, is going to be jealous. And so she's constantly going to go through my phone. She's constantly going to be accusing me of cheating. She's constantly going to do that. That's what 26-year-old girls do. And no offense to any of you 26-year-old girls out there, you're probably a lot more mature. But that's what 26-year-old girls back then did. And it got to the point where I was thinking, well, I might as well go cheat and have the benefits of it if I'm going to be accused of it all the time. It almost became a self-fulfilling prophecy. And so it's funny how we can push things in that direction. Likewise, we can push things in other directions by not constantly worrying about everything. But even though we have had a lot of worry, we're not worrying from the raw consciousness. The worry, the strife, the struggle, the tribulations have come from the 3D identity. And we're able to recognize that and see the 3D identity doesn't manifest. So I can be worried all day long about the outcome of something. But if I'm worried about it from the 3D, it's not going to make a difference. If I worry about it from the higher consciousness, if I start doubting the raw consciousness part of myself, that's when the manifestation can happen. And we can manifest both positive and negative like that. But I've always known that the raw consciousness is the most powerful. The key is to recognize when you're operating in 3D and when you're operating in raw consciousness. And I think maybe, now that I think about it out loud, maybe that's why I like to go out and drink. Maybe that's why I like to go out and party. Maybe that's why I like to go out and go to a rave every once in a while or something like that. Because it helps define the 3D for me a lot more. And I'm not abstaining from anything. I'm not abstaining from certain foods. I'm not abstaining from sex. I'm not abstaining from all these things in New Age are telling us to abstain from. So my 3D ego is not in want of anything. It's in want of some experiences, but it's not in want of anything. I'm not sitting there in the back of my mind like, man, I haven't had sugar in 3 months. I'd really like a chocolate bar because I love chocolate. Or I haven't eaten meat in 3 months. I really want to do that. Or I've been holding my orgasm for the last 2 weeks. I really need to release this orgasm. I don't have that itching that needs to be scratched, because nothing ever turns into those itches. Everything is just like in moderation, And then I find out too, like if I do something too much, like, there was a week we spent not drinking every day, but drinking every couple of days because we were having friends over every couple of days. I've had a couple of beers every couple of days. Sometimes we do shows. I'd go outside and have a beer and a cigar. And then for 3 months, Like I've got like a 12 pack, the same 24 pack of Modelo sitting in my refrigerator. Then I'll meet up with a friend and he's like, "Yeah, you want a beer?" Yeah, sure, why not? It creates balance. It creates balance. And in my opinion, think about this too. I'm going to leave you with one last thing. And I'm not promoting that people run around and stick poison in their bodies. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm wondering, though, is how is it that we're cleansing ourselves by cleansing our bodies and abstaining from things with our bodies? How does that help the soul? Vegetarianism, for example, you're not eating meat. You're saying you're not putting all that negative energy into your body. But how is the body connected to the soul? I was thinking about this and I was like, that doesn't help the soul at all. That might help the body or it might hurt the body. And sure, you want your body computer running optimally, no doubt about it. But does it really affect the soul? Especially if you become one of those people who are militant about your belief systems and want to push them onto others. I mean, think about this. You do something better for your body. Let's say you become, okay, here's a great example. People who've gone through AA, and no offense to anybody who's gone out through who's gone through AA. But they'll go through AA and they've done something better for themselves. I agree. It's not good to take in alcohol all the time. But there is something to wine. I've been taking resveratrol and metformin for the last year, and I've been de-aging. I don't have any gray hairs anymore at all, and that's the extract from red wine. There is something to wine. Wine is good. Wine is something we should be enjoying in this world, but they even consider wine as an alcohol. But even doctors will say, no, a glass of wine is good for you every day. But anyways, you're abstaining from all these things, and you think that you're raising yourself up to a higher frequency. But if you're interacting with people in a negative manner because they're not abstaining, because they're living a different way than you are, then have you really elevated your consciousness? Or have you just boosted your ego to an unhealthy state to where you might not be taking as much toxins in, but you're spewing toxins out at others? And as Jesus said, it's not what goes into the man that defiles the body. It's what comes out of the man. So does love and understanding come out in the words that you speak and put into the air? Or does judgment and ridicule and mocking come out? You will know them by their works. You will know the tree by its fruit. So if they're ostracizing, mocking, telling you that you are anything but perfect and exactly where you need to be on your journey, in my humble opinion, that is not helping raise the frequency. Instead, what's helping raise the frequency is, this is what I'm doing, this worked for me. You might want to do it. If it's not your path, do whatever you need to do. And it doesn't mean that you're all the way on, along your path. We're all walking this path together. I'm not at the end of my path. At the end of my path, I may be completely alcohol-free and meat-free and, all of that. I don't see the point of life if we don't enjoy what this life has to offer, which is good food, good sex, friendship, and love. And these things can all be done in a healthy manner, or they can be done in a destructive manner. You overeat, you get fat. I have a little bit of a belly on me. I don't overeat anymore, but there was a time when I did overeat a lot, and I'm still paying for it to this day. However, you have sex too much. Go out and have sex with 50 different random women. You're probably going to get an STD. Yeah, that's a toxic thing. Go out and drink, a 6-pack of beer or 12-pack of beer every night for a week. See how you feel afterwards. Yeah, that's highly toxic. Go eat meat for an entire week and see what happens. It's highly toxic. You're going to feel like shit. Go eat nothing but broccoli for an entire week. how are you going to feel? You're going to feel like shit. It doesn't matter what it is in this matrix. If you do it too much or too little, it's going to be toxic. And it's going to it's going to cause, in my opinion, at the end of the day, the words that come out of your mouth that affect other people, the frequency that you have. Your frequency isn't just your aura. Your frequency is also the words that come out of your mouth. They're also going to reflect the toxicity that's inside. And that's why, in my humble opinion, it's about balance. But again, this is my path. Feel free to take what you like from it and leave the rest. I appreciate everybody in the chat room tonight. I appreciate even more so the super chats from tonight for raising the frequency. And I appreciate all the love and understanding that we've had, especially through these last couple of weeks, where Cherie and I have been struggling really, really, really bad with a prospect of coming to a point to where we might be at the end of our journey here. But it's the end of this leg of the journey. It's the end of this part of the mission. And as December 2023 and January 2024 come around, that's the end of the matrix reset process that we initiated in Egypt. So at that point, it's either do or die, I understand that. So obviously there's a lot going on, and you guys and gals have been the strength and you have been the pillar. And I hope that I have been also the strength and the pillar. And when I falter, you pick me up. And when you falter, we pick you up. And that is family. I'll leave you with one more example real quick. I was talking to a lady, and she said she had kidney stones. And she said, and I said, Cherie had kidney stones for many years. She used potassium citrate. And she wrote back and she said, potassium citrate, I never would have thought about this. I've been dealing with this all my life. And tomorrow I have to go get something stuck in my pee hole. And I don't like talking about pee hole stuff, but I wish I would have asked you guys before. And I said, yeah, that's a problem. Why can we not have open, mature dialogues about stuff like this? And I invited her over to the Divine Feminine group. I don't have the link. Cherie has the link. But they have a feminine group where they talk about these kind of things. I don't even know the link. I don't go there. I respect the privacy of the ladies that post there. Cherie doesn't let me anywhere near there. I've never even asked to be anywhere near there. I don't want to know what goes on in there. Trust me. I don't want to know what goes on in there. But my point is that we don't have open dialogues about things that are deemed socially embarrassing. We don't have open dialogues about masturbation, about sex, about dealing with different sexual issues in a relationship, about finding different ways to please your partner and please yourself when you have some kind of bodily injury or some kind of bodily function breaking down. We don't have open discussions on how to deal in a chronic pain relationship. And that's why chronic pain relationships end 95% of the time, because there's no open discussions about it. And I know many of you are dealing with chronic pain, or many of you are dealing with a partner that has chronic issues. And it doesn't mean it has to be the end of the relationship. It really doesn't. There are ways to handle this. We've learned ways to handle this within us. And I think that you really want to talk about New Age, you really want to talk about a new way of doing things, I think we need to be able to have open dialogue with pure acceptance and pure love, knowing that nobody's being judged, nobody's being looked poorly upon for anything. If you've got a problem with a substance and you need help with that problem, you should be able to talk to somebody about that problem. If you've been on a psychopharmaceutical and you want to get off, you should be able to talk to somebody spiritual who will help you deal with that problem and help you get off of that, not somebody that's going to judge you. This is the true New Age. But in reality, this is the ancient teachings. So they've hijacked the Matrix reset. They've hijacked the New Age. But it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. It doesn't mean that the matrix isn't being reset in a positive way. It's being reset in a very positive way. We're watching the destruction of the deep state right now, and we're watching them do it to themselves. We thought Trump was going to do it, but they're doing it to themselves now. And it's so amazing to see how transparent they become. I'm not going to get into politics, but it's amazing to see how transparent they become. The new age, it's crumbling itself because it's exposed itself by pushing the vacations, being so judgmental, being so fake, so on and so forth. The religions have exposed themselves. Everything has exposed themselves. And all we got to do is just be real. And that's it. When we're real, we shine the light on the fake. And you guys and gals are the real deal. And I cannot thank you enough for being with us on this journey. I hope you took something out of this. I hope you can apply it to your day-to-day life. Thank you very much for the super chats. Kiss the one you love right now. You never know what the last time is going to be. And we'll see you even further beyond the veil. Love ya. Hey everyone, Chris Geo here. Just wanted to remind you that if you're watching on YouTube, you're probably getting a condensed version of the show. A link is going to pop up here on the left, taking you straight to patreon.com/btvtribe, where you can get the full shows. It's as little as $3 a month. And the reason is it helps us to overcome the YouTube censorship, the shadow banning, and also stay in touch with our BTV tribe. See you there at Patreon. Love ya.